On March 25th, 2021. Good evening and welcome commissioners, participants, and interested parties. This is the March 25th, 2021 meeting of Cohasset Conservation Committee. I'm Chris McFarland, Chairman of the Conservation Committee, and will be running tonight's meeting as we implement the Massachusetts and Cohasset Wetland Protection Act and the Cohasset Stormwater Management Regulations. We'll be operating this meeting using a Zoom platform, which we'll discuss shortly. Present this evening on behalf of the Conservation Commission are our Conservation Administrator, Angela Giso, and the Town Conservation Agent, Jeff Summers. I will now take roll call of the Conservation Commissioners and Associate Commissioners. Please respond by repeating your name and saying present. Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, present.
Eric Eisenhower.
Eric Eisenhower, present.
Trish Grady.
Grady, present.
Jay Pampari.
Jay Pampari, present.
Marianne Weatherall.
Present.
Chris McFarland, present. And Associate Commissioners Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, present.
Heather Seitz.
Heather Seitz, present.
Tonight we have a quorum of 6 commissioners. We'll be taking all votes via roll call, with each commissioner answering yay, nay, or abstain. For the record and for the audience, hearings for 32 Windy Hill Road, 73 Atlantic Avenue, 183 Atlantic Avenue, and 99 Border Street will not be heard tonight and will be continued until April 8th. And 1 Pleasant Street will not be heard tonight and is continued until April 22nd. Jeff, please advise interested parties how they might participate in the hearing.
Yeah, so sorry, I'm trying to figure this out too at the same time. So if anybody from the public has any comments or questions, please ask them through the Q&A feature. Once they come up, we'll read your question into the record and have that question answered.
Thank you, Jeff. Our first agenda item this evening is the appointment of a Cohasset Conservation Commissioner Treasurer. Do I hear any nominations?
Jay Pampari, I'd like to nominate Kathy Berrigan.
Do I hear a second?
Eric Eisenhower, seconds.
Haven't heard a nomination and a second. I'd like to take a roll. Well, first let me ask Ms. Berrigan, are you interested in this position?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. Thank you.
Having done such, I'd like to take a vote. Eric Eisenhower.
Eric Eisenhower, yes.
Trish Grady.
Trish Grady, yes.
Jay Pampari.
Jay Pampari, aye, yes.
Marianne Weatherall.
Marianne Weatherall, yes.
And Chris McFarland, yes. That nomination is accepted 5-0. Are there any other nominations for the position of Secretary Treasurer? Having heard no other nominations for Secretary or Treasurer and having one positive vote, Kathy Berrigan, you are now the Secretary Treasurer of the Conservation Commission.
Great, thank you. I'll do my
Thank you very
best.
much.
Congratulations.
Oh,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Our second item tonight is Stormwater Permit 21-11 for 10 Ocean Ledge Drive. Like to read into the record the notice of public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw, and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw. Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, March 25th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform from applicant 792 Jerusalem Realty Trust for Stormwater Permit 21-11 to construct a new single-family dwelling and 2-car garage at 10 Ocean Ledge Drive. We have someone here this evening who's representing the applicant.
Here's the problem, Chris. So I am clicking on them to promote them to panelists, and nothing's happening. Even even if I am hovering over you guys, so you know, I have the video of you guys, and then I have the participants over here on the left. So even as I hover over you guys, like if I wanted to make Justin a host, I'm hovering over Justin, I'm clicking on him and nothing is coming up to give me any options. Do you guys see what my problem is?
Yeah, but there's Atlantic Coast now as a participant.
Okay, I didn't do that, so I don't know if maybe.
I might have done it, but I don't know for sure.
Okay. All right, well,
Good
good. That's one
evening.
step.
Good evening. This is Jed Hannon with Atlantic Coast Engineering. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Ken.
Yes, hi, Jed.
Okay, great. Thank you for the introduction, Commissioner, and all the background information. So again, for the record, Joseph Hannon, PE with Atlantic Coast Engineering. I also have Matthew Pike, professional engineer, working with Atlantic Coast Engineering. We both worked on the design. And Steve Moran was the licensed RLS that did the survey work. So I'd like to just talk about some of the background on the property. And then, eventually we can open it up to questions if that's okay.
Okay.
Joseph, quick question. Can you share your screen or no?
I can try to.
I don't know if you could bring up the site plan. If not, I can.
Let's see.
I'm gonna think probably not, since we can't even get your video.
Right. Let me try start video. You cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Yeah, I don't know what I did with
I will
that.
remedy that.
S-
Oh, I just clicked on mine to work.
Chris.
Yeah, I'm getting the same error. You cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
How about share screen?
Let me try that.
Oh, there you go.
How does that look?
Yep, perfect.
Yep, that works.
Okay, great. So if it's okay with you guys, I'll get started here.
Yes, please.
Okay. So the proposed project, as you had brought up, is for a single family home, falling under the smaller threshold. It's under 3,500 square feet. It's proposed at 3,469 with a 2-car garage. As you can see in the bottom right corner of the proposed site plan, there's the zoning requirements. On the column on the left is required. On the column on the right is the actual. And we basically meet all the criteria in terms of frontage, lot depth, building height, maximum lot coverage, maximum building coverage, minimum open space area, and then the front, side, and rear setbacks. I'll speak to utilities now. In terms of utilities, the proposed water source is a well in the rear of the proposed house. We already submitted that to the Board of Health and they approved that. In terms of gas and electric, there's a utility easement in the rear of the property that you can see at the opposite side of Ocean Ledge. So the electric and the gas would be fed from there. The sewer, the proposed sewer would be town sewer. There's already a existing sewer line stub onto the property, as well as a grinder pump, which you can see denoted in red.
Yes.
And so the scope of work there would be to basically excavate and install the new sewer pipe to the house. In terms of the driveway width is 12 feet. We checked with the NFPA to make sure it was compliant with, fire code requirements and turning radius for fire trucks. And it is compliant with that. There's also a fire hydrant along Ocean Ledge, which you can see denoted in blue, just above the site plan scale. So the fire hydrant's compliant with the, length requirement to the house. There's a fair amount of ledge on the property, which we're aware of, and, you know, some of that will need to be removed in order to install the driveway and, you know, build this in compliance with the proposed site plan. There are 5 trees that will need to be removed in order to develop this site plan. And what we did propose to Jeff and the rest of you commission members, if you're amenable to it, is that we'd replace those 5 trees with either a like kind species, or we are aware that Cohasset Conservation Commission has a sort of a pre-specified list of 5 trees, and we'd certainly be willing to do that if that's more palatable. We are aware of, you know, the relative close proximity to some of the abutters. You know, we'll definitely plan to, you know, keep dust control to a minimum with a watering plan, and we'll certainly monitor the noise decibel level just to be as least invasive as possible during construction. I did reach out to Brad Holmes, professional wetland scientist, to just to make sure that, you know, I checked all over Mass GIS in collaboration with Jeff to make sure there weren't any wetlands nearby. And we did check the endangered species website, and there's nothing that comes up on that. And Brad Holmes agreed with that. And so I guess at this point, we'll open it up to any questions. We can certainly dive into the stormwater management report. But basically there will be gutter trays and downspouts, which then go into a 4-inch PVC stone trench. And then there's a riprap swale that basically runs along the side of the property, you know, to handle the runoff and basically slow it down. So we'll take any questions at this point that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, could you give us your summary of this project, please?
Sure. So Joseph's right. The closest resource area is marsh associated with Straits Pond. It's about 170 feet from the closest portion of work here. As he said, the lot's predominantly, there's a lot of ledge on the property. There's a large outcrop that kind of runs right up along the side of that driveway on the right side of the plan. And then also to the top. The house is basically to sit on the most level portion of the property. The vegetation on the property is primarily mature trees. I'd say probably half are alive, half are dead. Ground cover is predominantly briars. And that's really the site. But before we move on, I do have a question regarding stormwater for Joseph. Does this tie into the catch basin that's on the property? There's like 2 right down at the north end of the property.
So the runoff that goes along the riprap swale that parallels the driveway, the runoff will tie into the catch basin down there.
Okay.
Yep.
So the flow is basically from the southeast to the northwest across the property, which the stone trench is designed to capture all that flow, allow for infiltration, slow the progress of water off-site, and then eventually what water does flow off-site will go through the catch basin.
Exactly.
Okay.
Does the catch basin go into Straits Pond?
I imagine so, yeah.
Yep.
I believe it does. Yep.
Can you use your cursor and just show the commissioners the flow of the water and where that catch basin is located?
Excuse me, Chris, could you make the diagram a bit larger? It's coming across very small, very difficult to see. Maybe make the image portion where the housing is, a larger portion of the screen, please. Or Jeff?
That's Joseph's screen. Can you do that, Joseph, or do you want me to?
Yeah, let me try to do that. Did that help?
That's better, thank you.
Sure. let me just zoom up too. So yeah, that the utility easement's in the back there. Okay, so yeah, to talk through your question, as probably most or all of you are aware, water runs off perpendicular to the contour lines. So can you see my cursor right here?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so as Jeff noted, the runoff comes from the south, and as you can see, the contours up at the rear of the property by the 5-foot landscape easement, that's elevation 64. And then generally the runoff heads north, and that's generally the flow. And so we designed the runoff system to not only capture the runoff from the roof, but then also any on the property in an extreme case, such as during a major rain event when the ground's frozen, for example, so that the water flows towards the riprap swale and it's slowed down significantly. And then the pitch of the riprap swale is such that it's deep enough to comply with the 100-year flood requirement. And then the catch basin is very close to right down by the end of the riprap swale, so that you know, the water's slowed down and then it properly ties in there.
Joseph, this is Jay Pimpari, Commissioner here. I looking at this and on paper and what you described sounds reasonable, but I do question that whole flow. In being so close to the existing driveway next door here, I am concerned that in cold temperatures, when that whole area freezes, becomes a sheet of ice, that riprap area might become, again, pretty much a downhill skating rink. We get a lot of snow that stops the flow from entering into that trench area. So I'm a little concerned about that. But I'm concerned about water not making it into that area and overflowing into the existing driveway and causing some issues with the neighboring property. So can you explain how you feel that that's not going to affect that existing driveway?
Sure. So the 100-year design criteria for the stormwater, the size of the swale in terms of depth and volume has to comply with the 100-year volume amount. And so when the water enters the swale, there's enough volume and space to handle that flow. And then as it heads down the swale, it ties into the catch basin. So I do appreciate your concern. We did look at that in the stormwater plan and analysis, and it does meet the DEP requirements for best management practice and the 100-year flood requirement.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that it's a great BMP to have. I'm just concerned about the real life activity of water that captured from the entire, looks like the entire roof and garage. And as you said, also water that's entering not only that, which is basically direct flow, but it's also water from up gradient and uphill that's also going to be infiltrating into that area. Compounded on top of that, I'm looking at the driveway. I assume that the driveway is an asphalt driveway?
Correct.
And is that driveway pitched at all? Because in addition to all the other remaining flow, you're going to have sheet flow coming off of that driveway. It looks like it goes from elevation a little over 46 down to elevation 30. That's a 16-foot drop in not a long span. So there'll be sheet flow coming off of that driveway as well. Whether or not it makes it down to the end of the driveway or overflows, yeah, right there, overflows the riprap wall and further adds to the volume of the trench. So I have to say I am concerned about that, being that the existing driveway is right next door. If this was a wooded area, it might not have as much concern, but that is a concern to me.
Sure. No, I appreciate the comments. Matthew Pike, are you on the, can you hear us here on the call, on the video?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Matt, do you want to just provide some additional comments? Matt did the, you know, the nuts and bolts of all the design and all the documents for the stormwater, and I checked it. Matt, can you talk about that? And then, you know, if we think that, you know, additional management solutions such as a couple drive wells along the driveway with catch basin covers is perhaps suitable due to some commission members' concerns, we can certainly do that. But Matt, if you could talk through some of the details and maybe address the questions like I did, but maybe expand on it a little bit, please.
Sure, absolutely. Hello, everyone. Matt Pike, PE. I'm with Jed Hand, Atlantic Coast Engineering. So the first concern I'd like to speak on is the driveway and the possibility of any water maybe sitting on it or becoming frozen. So the driveway has, in addition to the downslope heading towards Ocean Ledge, it also has a cross slope of 2% that pitches the entirety of the water either to the north or to the west. So there's a constant cross slope of 2%. And I don't know if everybody has the detail of the riprap slope with the stone infiltration trench, because if I understand it, there was some maybe concern of the water filling up and backing up maybe onto the driveway. So as Jed stated, we've prepared the stormwater with the 10 stormwater requirements of the DEP stormwater management, and it does comply with the recharge and the volume and the first flush and everything. But if you look at the only volume that we're really taking account for is the trench at the very bottom of it. You can see there's I believe it says 3.6, 2.33. I mean, in reality, there's much more storage within that riprap, being that you get 40% voids within that. So the only really volume that we're taking account for and that meets the requirements is that at very bottom. And you can see that the grade difference between where you're getting the storage and the driveway, that there's just really no chance that it would ever back up that far to meet the driveway.
So I'm looking at the actual stone infill trench section, and it looks like there's a 1 to 1.5 rise to run on the riprap wall with the crushed stone underneath. That
Yes.
does infiltrate, or I guess it angles down to the little less than 2 square foot storage area. It looks like the trench is about 3.5 feet wide and 2.5 feet high, give or take. And so you've got a geotextile fabric underneath there as well, assuming that the fabric is going to keep the riprap wall in place and also help with infiltration, moving that water down to the trench box.
I mean, really the intent of the fabric there is for separation. It's for separation from the stone to the earth below, just so there's no mixing of it. That's really the only intent of it.
Yeah, there you go.
So it's really just to keep keep the stone separate from, you know, the fines and the silt, and keep it clean so that water can continue to run through it. So I just see the 2% slope in the HMA driveway and the slope of the site as a whole. The water will eventually make its way to that riprap slope and then trickle down eventually into that storage area where we obtained the required storage in excess of it.
Was there any thought about, in most, if not, I should say all of our homes that are built in Cohasset with stormwater? I understand there's a lot of ledge on this property, so there are some difficulties there. But you know, what we typically see is infiltration chambers. And I know that there's a lot of ledge there, but there does seem to be some area on the backside of the driveway, if you could pull up the other diagram, where there doesn't seem to be much ledge. And in the, I guess, top left, I'm getting confused with the northeast west here, but on the top left, yeah, there we go. that it does appear that there might be some area there for an infiltration chamber. Did you consider that at all?
Absolutely. And so I did consider, the structural approach, as you're describing as infiltration trenches. But being that, because of the grade change because of the way that this property is set, we're already basically had to build up that slope. And I saw that as an opportunity, as a more of a non-structural, green approach to not introduce, structures that may clog or fail, and try to just utilize, the part of the design that we're already being, had to do to make the actual driveway and the site work, and kind of incorporated that into the drainage. I basically saw the opportunity to use the material and the design that we were already going in that direction of. But as Jed said, we could absolutely consider, a different approach.
Well, I think you should, this is just me talking here, but I think that should be considered because if there is complete failure here, the water coming off of the home there has no place to go but across that existing driveway. And that would be a concern to me if I were an abutter. I don't know if we have any butters on the call here, but it seems like there's an opportunity here for a small infiltration chamber to take some of that flow away from that area.
So the area you're mainly concerned about, is it, are you referring to the proposed contours between, say, 44 and 46 by the garage?
Yes. So, and I was looking at the contour of like how to zoom in here, like 54 on the other side of the driveway in the front yard there, like 54 down to about 50 before it really drops. Doesn't appear that, I don't know, it's not stated that there's ledge there. It appears that while it's not level, that there is a high point to a down point. And I don't know, maybe you could get a little trench box or something over in that area where you could infiltrate some of the roof water and take that away from the house.
Sure, we'd be amenable to something like that for sure. I mean, as you can see at the front left of the house by elevation 54 proposed contour, those roof leaders basically wrap around the whole house, and then they come around the rear of the garage, and then they tie into the stone trench. So if your concern is volume there, and obviously we ran the math in the stormwater plan, everything's capable of handling the 100-year flood. But if there's a higher level of comfort for basically, putting in a 90-degree out to sort of that front yard area to a dry well or another type of structure to then percolate into the existing soil, we'd certainly be amenable to that.
I think that would make me feel much more comfortable rather than having a failure on the other end and the only reason I say failure is just freezing conditions over there and ice dams and backups, etc. That's all.
Sure.
This is Mary Ann Weatherald, and I agree with what Justin says. I'm very familiar with this corner of Cohasset, and there is a lot of water that does come down Ocean Ledge Drive, what it's named as, that comes down by the church. So if there's any way to control the volume of water with the secondary trench, perhaps on I guess it's the west side, that would be acceptable. I also wondered if you had considered co-sharing the existing driveway and coming in through the garage slab from the right-hand side. It's a lot of ledge that you're removing, and I wondered if that had been considered instead of going straight through the ledge at such a high degree.
So Ryan Conley, if you're on the call and you can hear this, from a deed and ownership standpoint, that existing driveway that parallels the proposed driveway, can you speak to the deed and ownership rights on that driveway? I believe you don't have access rights to it. Is that correct?
Who was that you were talking to?
Ryan Conley. So
let me see if I can get him in.
okay.
Ryan,
I
if
think
you're on mute, if you unmute, you should be able to talk.
Yes.
Ryan, did we
Or-
lose you?
Or Leah Popolarski, can you hear us, Leah?
Ryan's in. I think you're just muted,
Okay.
Ryan.
Hello.
There you go, Ryan.
Yeah, so we don't have, that's a private driveway, so we don't have access to it. So that's the reason why we put the driveway where it is. So,
Okay, thank you.
This is Jay again. One additional comment, and Marion is correct. And there is a lot of flow coming off of Ocean Ledge Drive coming down to the area of the church. When we have when we have driveways proposed like this of such a high pitch, I think it would be also prudent to put in a little catch or a trench drain at the bottom of the driveway, or if you're gonna use that catch basin and it's okay with the town to tie into that catch basin, then maybe a trench like between the 32 and 34 foot contour, and then tie that into the catch basin as well, so that we don't have sheet flow going right out. Yeah, we don't have sheet flow going right out into Ledge Drive and across into an abutter's property, because there's going to be a lot of water coming off of that. Even though there's a little bit of a, I guess, a 2% slope there, it's still, you're going to have some sheet flow there. So again, I would recommend, or you consider putting in some type of a trench at the 34 foot contour to tie into the catch basin.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, this is Jeff Summers. I just wanted to remind anybody in the audience that if they wanted to make any comments, to do so through the question and answer feature. But I did get an email from an abutter about an hour ago who asked me to, I don't think he could make the meeting, but he wanted me to read his comment into the record, which I said I would do. So if everybody could just bear with me for a second, I'm just going to read this comment. It's from Hollis Honeywell. He lives at 796 Jerusalem Road, which, if you're looking at the site plan, it is the property to the right, so across that the existing driveway. Mr. Honeywell goes on. He says, "My name is Hollis Honeywell. I live at 796 Jerusalem Road. In my common driveway directly abuts the proposed driveway on its eastern flank. I have read the stormwater report, but I am not an engineer. Here's my concern." He goes on, "A great deal of water comes off the hill on Ocean Ledge Drive. If you look at the first page of the report, you can count the 11 houses, 43 bedrooms, and 29 garage bays that are currently serviced by a 13.5-foot common driveway. Blasting an additional driveway and adding more cars in an already stressed ecosystem is tricky business. Additionally, not all the drains on Ocean Ledge function properly, so my concern is that my common driveway and the ease of use will be negatively impacted by ice, water, and snow. I know the report says it won't, but I hope you will read it with a fine pen." He closes by saying, "I would welcome the opportunity to walk it with a member of the committee. Thank you for your time." So I think basically what he was reiterating is, kind of what Jay was saying, that, there's already an issue of water coming off the hillside that creates a lot of issues for the residents in that area, and we're just trying to minimize it as much as possible.
yeah, Jeff, this is Ryan again. We installed a whole draining system for Ocean Ledge Drive probably a couple years ago. So that whole Ocean Ledge Drive, I think, has every 30 feet has a catch basin on the right-hand side of it,
Yeah.
which is then tied into the catch basin that we're down below for that discharges into Straits Pond. So we mitigated a lot of the water runoff and the icing on that street. So we're willing to do the same with this house as well. You know.
I think what Mr. Honeywell said was that they're not working right now, so it would require checking in with the Public Works Department to empty them and help them to flow better. So that would be a requirement.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say too. I think probably a lot of the issue is that these catch basins are probably full of sediment, sand, and who knows what else.
So just a question on that. I know typically there's annual, annually there's vac trucks that go around and clean out the catch basins. Is there a particular time window in Cohasset where that takes place?
The only thing that I know is that I don't know what their schedule is, but I know DPW has a schedule that they follow. I don't know the frequency of how often they would get to each basin in town though. And I think, different areas have different priorities based on the amount of sediment that fills those in. So I really don't know what their schedule is, but they do have one.
Jeff, is that something you could follow up with as far as scheduling goes with DPW in that particular area? I know I live about a half a mile from this property, and for the past 2 days, there have been street sweepers going up and down the road 3 to 4 times a day. So they are actively sweeping the sand off of the Jerusalem Road itself.
Yes, I can.
I can
Thanks.
comment that oops, am I muted? I'd like to comment that the DPW doesn't flush all of these catch basins on the private ways, and I believe that Ocean Ledge Drive is a private way. If Howe Road is any example, and I've never seen them do ours in 10 years. So I'd also question how large the pipe is between the catch basins and Straits Pond and whether they're adequate to handle even the existing runoff.
Yeah, I believe the pipe size is 8-inch, what we installed all along Ocean Ledge Drive and
Yeah, the question is how the size of the pipe. It's great to have an 8-inch pipe maybe, but if it's only a 6-inch pipe from the last catchment to Straits Pond, one of those is going to be, the lower catchment basins are going to be fountains, not catchment basins.
Right, I can confirm what size. I believe it's 8-inch though.
All the way to the pond?
Yeah.
Is it RCP, Ryan? Reinforced concrete pipe?
I'm not too sure.
Okay,
Is
so
that
we can,
actually a town catchment basin? If you look at the catchment basins on the private ways in this neighborhood, you'll see that there are large grates on many of them and very, very 12-inch square grates on many others. And those the smaller ones would be the older ones that were installed maybe 100 years ago. And most of those do not work.
I have a question on the actual excavation, the shift gears a little bit. It looks like there is going to be a fair amount of excavation, both for the driveway and for the house itself. It's like the slab is down, well, call it 48 feet. So there's about a 4-foot to 6-foot cut there. And so what is the means of excavation there, and what are we talking about as far as ledge removal? How much ledge or excavation is proposed over there? And then lastly, what is the method of ledge removal, blasting, chipping, cutting, etc.?
okay, so I can speak to the excavation part, I guess first, and then we can move on to the other couple questions. So in terms of the excavation, an excavator would be used with an adequate length boom to excavate down to, the proposed grade minus, of course, putting in structural fill that needs to be compacted. Then, of course, the depth of the slab. So an excavator would be used to remove all the existing soils there. And then also an excavator would be used to place in the proposed structural fill as subgrade prior to compacting, and then form work for concrete, of course. In terms of the ledge, being that we're at the permit phase right now, these aren't issued for construction drawings. So we haven't done a detailed analysis on the tonnage or cubic yard of ledge. But what we try to do is the least invasive method, which is probably using a hoe ram on an excavator versus drilling or blasting. But at this point, we're not sure because we're only at the permit phase. Was there another question, or did I address what you had asked?
I think that was it. As you had alluded to, it's a little unknown, but I think you could probably capture the amount of material that will need to be excavated there. You've got quite a slope from, I don't know, probably the 48-foot contour down to 34 there. And again, 14 feet, making that 46 feet down to 40 feet with the existing driveway. So there's certainly a significant cut in that area. It doesn't, on the plan, it doesn't appear to be ledge. So that's a good thing, but I don't know that you're gonna be so lucky with other excavations.
This is Marianne again. Can you explain what a hoe ram is versus a chipper? I have never heard of that. And what can a neighbor expect from that? What kind of sound, or what would they see here?
Sure. Yeah, great question. So the names are basically synonymous with each other. They're hydraulically powered, and it's essentially a hydraulic shaft with a sort of a pointed, typically 6-inch diameter shaft that is hydraulically powered, that goes up and down and essentially hammers away at the rock and ledge. As I had mentioned previously, we could certainly monitor the decibel level, due to noise concerns with the butters, and certainly do a recurring watering plan to minimize dust.
Mhm.
Can I ask why you're putting in a domestic well for your water supply instead of using town water? It looks like there's a water service easement down at the base of the driveway.
Ryan Conley, can you still hear us? Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, just cost factors. It's cheaper to drill a well out back than they wanted us to bring an 8-inch water line up to that house. So it didn't really make any sense at that, and it was very costly.
Hi, I'm Kathy Berrigan, Commissioner. I had a question about the ledge that is to the left side of the driveway and the upper right side of the driveway. I had read in your site plan that you were going to remove the ledge to create the driveway, but on the plan here it says ledge area, like to the left and to the right, ledge area, and then it says remove ledge to install driveway. But those pieces of ledge that are showing on the site plan on the left and right side of the driveway don't look like they're part of the driveway. So I'm wondering why you would remove those two areas of ledge also, and how does that connect to the driveway as it states on the plan? Thank you.
Okay, sure. Yeah, thank you for the question. So on the left side of the driveway, there's a proposed sewer pipe to be installed.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to install that sewer pipe, ledge needs to be removed and a trench needs to be excavated in accordance with the Board of Health details on trench width and depth. So I guess in summary, that's basically why we need to widen the footprint of the ledge removal in order to install the sewer pipe on the left-hand side.
Okay.
Yeah, on the right-hand side, in order to install the sub-base material for the driveway, it's not just, I mean, if you can imagine, it's not just a straight line down to the subgrade structural fill that's compacted. It's more of a 45-degree angle. And so that's the reason why the ledge needs to be removed further on the right-hand side. Does that make sense?
So that you can access, it's kind of an access way into the driveway area itself. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and then in order to put the layers of
Fill it in.
structural fill in, that is the subgrade for the pavement.
Okay. All right, I understand. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
This is Eric Eisenhower. Have you done any test boring for your well yet?
We have not.
Yeah, because I mean, there are plenty of people in Cohasset who have very, very positively gone and begun well projects, and $40,000 later still don't have the quantity of water that they need, or the water doesn't have the purity or whatever it may be. Yeah, I would think the whole thing's a bit risky. Are the costs of bringing the water up into that pipe you're talking about so prohibitive that you begin something risky such as drilling for putting a well in, which easily could cost $20,000, $30,000, $40,000?
For what's that, a well?
Yeah.
No, a well costs about $15 a foot. So you're talking $3,500 to drill a well, and then you got some other costs associated that to hook up the well. Yeah, I mean, to bring a line up from Jerusalem Road, it would cost about, 60 to 80,000. And then you
Do you
have,
have any idea?
you might hit ledge as well, because it's gonna go down 4 feet. So
Do you have any idea how deep you have to go to find the water you're talking about? Because everything is a function of how deep you have to go.
yeah,
Yeah.
we drilled 3 wells up here in the past 4 years. We have great water pressure. We have one well that we drove 200 feet. We have another one 300 feet and another one at 400 feet. And we have great pressure up here. So I'm not really concerned about that because we've had a lot of great success drilling wells up here.
Mr. Commissioner, can I make a comment?
Please.
We were having some great discussion here, and I'm just noticing the clock as I want to make sure that we give everybody ample time this evening. Some of the discussion is kind of shifted off of the stormwater application that we have in front of us. I have made my comments. I think what I'm hearing is the applicant is willing to look at the plan and come up with some additional remedies to capture some of the stormwater. I also want to make note that there was mention of 5 trees were going to be removed.
Yep.
I think the commission would also like to see a planting plan as far as where the replacement or the 5 or however many trees are going to be placed on the property with this specific size and species. We typically recommend a 3-inch caliber tree, depending on the tree, if it's a oak tree or maple or etc. But yes, you are correct. There is a list of trees to choose from. So I don't know. There was a lot of discussion here, and seems like the applicant is going to have to revise the application a little bit. I'd recommend we, have a little bit more discussion, but think about continuing this and having the applicant revise the application, come back in a couple of weeks.
I support that.
Hi, it's Tricia. Just before we wrap up the conversation, Jeff Summers, I'm not sure if you noticed that there is an attendee that has their hand up. I don't know if their hand is up intentionally. Deborah Hines. Just wanted to make sure she had an opportunity to ask a question. If she
Yeah, if Deborah, if you wanted to make a comment, could you just type it into the question and answer, please?
Is there a way to promote Deborah to get her comment in there for the sake of time rather than trying to type that in there, Jeff?
Sure. She should be up. Deborah, we promoted you to panelist. Did you have a question for us?
Hold on. Hello. Yes.
Go ahead. Nope.
Yeah, Deborah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in a butter at 20 Ocean Ledge Drive. And I just wanted to reinforce Mr. Honeywell's email stating that there is a tremendous amount of runoff now in particular. And I know it's been highlighted, but I just want to say actual experience has been that it does ice over in that driveway. It's very treacherous. We have additional sanding that happens because I did our first year in the house have an accident where I hit our mailbox, which is right near the driveway of the intended house. So I want to make sure that that is everyone's awareness. Whatever was done, and I'm not saying it wasn't done, isn't functioning as designed.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Okay.
Okay, this is Jed Hannon. I just had a couple questions unless there were more comments.
No, go ahead, please.
Questions. Okay, so if I could just kind of back brief on what I heard that needs to be addressed so that we could try to hopefully get this, reviewed and approved at the next meeting. So the 5 trees, we'll certainly look into that and put those on the plan. And I'll probably, circle up with you, with Jeff on that, just to make sure it seems amenable. The 2 structures we talked about, one being at the front left of the house to capture some of that runoff. And then secondly, down around elevation 34 at the driveway, perhaps, we'll have to look at the math, but we could put in a dry well with a H20 loading type of catch basin cover so that additional runoff's captured and can then percolate into the ground. And then I'll also speak with Ryan and Leah offline about the catch basins to see, what the requirement is on the private driveway, just to ensure that what's supposed to be done is actually being done on a recurring basis. And I frankly don't know that answer in terms of the deed and responsibility, but we should be able to speak to that intelligently at the next meeting. Thank you. Does that sound about right?
Yes. It does.
Great. Thank you.
So what we're going to do is we're going to continue this hearing. We have a very full night on April the 8th. Is there a time crunch on your end that you would like to be fit in on April the 8th, or can we do it till April the 22nd?
Ryan, that's up to you. I mean, I know we would like to try to get this approved sooner than later, but Ryan, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, if you can get us on it's up to you, Jed. Do you think you can update the plan by then?
Yeah.
So this is Jeff Summers. So we would actually, we actually have a time frame for when we would need any revised submissions, and that's actually a week from today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we would actually need them by 4 p.m. on April 1st. So
Yeah,
I think
we can do that. I mean, these aren't, major changes or updates, so we can get those to you within 1 week. No problem.
Okay. Then this hearing will be continued until April the 8th. 2021. Thank you very much. Oh,
Okay.
there's one more. No, that was Angela. Okay. Oops.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. All right. right, Jeff, tell me when we have everyone back.
Yep. So just for all the commissioners, I promoted everybody to co-host, so I think we can share our screens now. I'm gonna try mine. Yeah, so I think we can all share our screens. And then what I'll do is when the other applicants come on, I'll make them co-host as well. Then we'll be able to see them also.
Okay. I'd like to move on to our next hearing. And before I do, can we just all make an effort? I thought we were going to be done while it was still light out tonight, but can we all make an effort to keep our discussion on the topic at hand, whether it be a stormwater permit or wetlands issue? We are now half hour behind. An hour? No, half hour behind. Our second hearing is continued from March the 11th, 2021. It's an RDA 21-04 at 30 Whitehead Road for a new shed and the rebuilding of a garage. I believe at our last hearing, everyone was fairly had a good understanding of the garage rebuild. I think the shed still had some questions, so I think we're going to ask the Bodells to kind of bring up their latest drawing and tell us a little bit about what changes they've made to the plans.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Yes, hi, James.
Can you see me?
No, you
No.
have to share your screen.
Oh, I have to share my screen. Oh,
Just do
there we
an
go.
introduction.
There we go.
Thank you.
So, hi, so, yes, so thank you for your time. We had proposed a garage, which, as you'd mentioned, I think is not the sticking point. The sticking point is the proposed shed that we had. The shed at the time was being built within the 100-foot buffer, within the 25-foot buffer of an isolated vegetated wetland. It was going to be built on 12 piers. And at the time you had requested a more detailed map of where the piers would be, where the shed would be, because it was kind of wasn't zoomed in enough for us to give you a good feel of what we were proposing. I have submitted, and do you want me to share the screen and share these?
Yes, please.
Okay. Bear with me.
See, where's the share screen?
Yep, okay. Desktop. Okay, did I lose you?
No, we're here.
Can you see my screen?
You can see
We
it.
cannot.
You cannot.
You probably have to select the.
If you can, I can share it on mine.
Can you share yours?
Sure.
I'm sorry,
It's a privacy setting.
I have a privacy setting and it would take me like 20 minutes to figure it out. There we go, perfect. So what I've done, this is exactly the one that I wanted to share with you. So what I've done is I've color coded the lines. The yellow line that you see is the 100-foot buffer from Treats Pond.
Mm-hmm.
The red line is the 50-foot buffer from Treats Pond. And the green line is the 25-foot buffer from the isolated vegetated wetland.
Mm-hmm.
These lines are from a certified survey from Nantasket Survey, which I also included because I think I didn't submit it as part of the original packet. So if you want to see where it is on the full property, that has also been submitted. You can zoom out if you'd like to see that, where it is in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
That's up to you. So so you can see the house in the upper right.
That was where it originally was.
Yeah. So what we've done as a result of the last meeting, we've actually made a couple adjustments to our proposal. The original shed adhered to the setback line. So the front of the shed was actually on the blue line,
Correct.
the blue dotted line. And that put 90% of the shed into the 25-foot buffer.
Mhm.
We have, the proposal we have now is we've reduced the size of the shed from 20 feet by 15 feet to 20 feet by 14 feet. So we've made it shallower. And we've moved the shed forward. So the back of the shed is now on the setback line.
Mhm.
This is removed almost probably about as much as the shed as we can from the buffer. We still have, I think we have about 18 square feet that still exists in the 25-foot buffer as opposed to the whole 280 square feet. The blue dots represent helical pier, either concrete or helical piers. At this point, they'll probably can be helical because it's almost, the shed is now entirely on the area that has been filled. I did go out and dig a test hole down 4 feet. It's basically just sand, dirt, and potato rocks.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been filled in at some point in the past.
Okay.
I also drew in the contour lines, which were not obvious last time. So as you can see behind the shed a little ways, it drops off by about 5 to 6 feet from the top of the auxiliary driveway where the shed will be to the top of the wetland area.
Mhm.
This, of course, will require us to go in front of the zoning board of appeals, which, if we get approval here, we will subsequently have to do.
Mhm.
And that is our adjusted proposal. There was a question on plantings. We went through the list. We would probably plant, I think, 5 winterberries along the back edge of that slope,
Mhm.
because we can see it from the house, and we have familiarity with winterberries, and it's a really pretty plant.
It's on the list.
And it's on your list. And the original shed, we were also going to pin to ledge, but now that it's entirely on this auxiliary driveway, that will no longer be required. Any questions?
Jeff, do you have any new comments?
No, I just have some conditions that if it gets approved that I want to add.
Okay. Any commissioner have any additional comments?
This is Jay Pimpari. Thank you for considering the commission's comments the last time. I think this is a significant improvement from the last go around. You've reduced the square footage of disturbance in the buffer zone. I could certainly live with 18 square feet in the 25-foot buffer zone. As far as giving approval to this, so I'm okay. I'm okay with it. I think the helical piles you'll be better off at the end of the day than having to try and pin to that ledge anyway. So I think this is a significant improvement, and I support the project.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner?
I agree with that.
Jeff Summers, what did you have for conditions here, so we can kick that around, please, if there's no other comments?
Yeah, I was
Well,
just,
Jeff, I'm sorry, before you say anything, Jay, I just like to make a kind of a clarification to your comment, if I may. Under most typical circumstances, the construction in the wetland buffer is something that we try to avoid. And I think that in this particular case, the reason that we feel that the 18 feet, or the reason that I feel that this 18 square feet is of little consequence, is because this area has already been filled in. And so the disturbance is pre-existing, and the shed is not contributing to further disturbance. I just want to make that clear.
Completely agree with you, and thank you for adding that clarification. Yes, great point.
I agree with this new revised development. It's much better. Just curious why you couldn't move it over a little bit to the left. Just curious. Otherwise, I'm pretty cool with this, but if you could provide me, entertain me.
Sure. We can attempt to move it over more to the left to reduce the footprint. I'm kind of hedging my bets because I don't believe I can get the entire shed out of the wetlands. So what I'm trying to give myself a little wiggle room to leave a little bit in there if it happens.
Yeah.
We will of course try to reduce it as best we can, but I don't believe we can get the whole thing out of what we're proposing.
I
Do you
think
mean
once-
the 25th, the 20-foot, 25-foot buffer zone? Is that what you're referencing?
Yeah, I think there will.
It's always going to be within.
I think there will always be something within the 25-foot buffer. I mean, even if we can reduce it to 5 square feet, great. But it would be, I guess what I'm saying is it would be no worse than 18 square feet.
Okay, as long
And
as it's no worse, but
it would
this
be
is
no
much better. Much better.
As far as I can see, the only one pier is actually within the 25-foot buffer.
2 maybe.
2 maybe, yes.
As far as zoning goes, I don't know, you questioned whether or not you had to go in front of zoning. In a case like this where if you were to get conservation approval, certainly I hope that you would have that in your toolbox as the reason why you needed to go in front of zoning in order to stay out of the wetland area and get Conservation Commission approval. So if this project is to be approved, I hope that's to your benefit with zoning, and I don't know, maybe the commission could put a little statement in there to help support your cause with zoning if you had to go in front of them as the rationale for that.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Jeff, what did you have for
tell us what
conditions?
those Conditions were?
So, yeah, so the 2 conditions I was going to recommend, one, that before any construction begins, that siltation barriers are installed per the agent's direction. And then, James, I appreciate you offering to put in those winter barriers. I think that's great. So the second condition I was going to suggest is that 5 winter barriers be installed in appropriate locations on the back slope of the shed, and that they be a minimum of 2 feet in height.
2 feet in height. Okay. Yes. We can agree to that.
Jeff, do you want to see a plan on that as far as where the approximate locations are going to be, or when would that? What would make you happy with that? With just a little quick drawing with a couple X's on there to show the approximate location?
I don't even think I need that. I think if we just say, along the back edge of the shed, that, it's going to be somewhere in this location right here between in this area. I think anywhere in there will be fine. There's pretty much nothing growing there right now.
Yeah, it's all
Okay.
Pricklers or whatever. I don't know what
It's
they are.
empty. Where that spot is.
Oh yeah, we're there. Yeah.
Is there any further comment? So Jeff, would this be a -3?
Yes, so it'll be a -3 with the 2 conditions that I mentioned.
Okay.
So if there's no further comment, Jay Pimpari, I'd like to make a motion to issue a -3 determination for the project at 30 Whitehead Road with the following conditions. One, be that before any construction is underway, that a silt barrier be installed along suitable to the conservation agent's acceptance. And secondly, that 5 winterberry trees be installed with appropriate spacing, minimum 2 feet in height along the back edge of the shed.
Do I hear a
I
second?
second that.
There's also
Have
the
we heard a
garage.
motion and a second for a -3 determination for RDA 21-04 at 30 Whitehead Road? I'd like to take a vote. Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisner, aye.
Trish Grady,
Fish Grady abstain.
Jay Pampari,
Jay Pimpari, aye.
Marianne Weatherall,
Aye.
and Chris McFarland says aye. That vote passes 5-1. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bodell, you're all set. Thank you very much. I'll have to issue the permit via certified mail, so keep an eye out for that.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Our next application tonight is a new application, so I'd like to read it into the record. This is lot 25 on Whitehead Road. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw, the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, March 25th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform from applicants Brian Doherty and Nick Robert. For notice of intent 21-13, stormwater permit 2110 to construct a new single-family dwelling with associated landscaping on property located at lot 25 Whitehead Road. Looks like Jeff Hassett's going to be presenting this application. Jeff, go ahead.
Great, thank you, Chris. Jeff Hassett here for the record with Morse Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the property owners, Brian Doherty and Nick Robert. On their behalf, we filed a notice of intent and a stormwater permit for a new house on the vacant lot adjacent to their own house, known as Lot 25 Whitehead Road. This lot is 2.4 acres in size. It's currently developed with a P-stone driveway parking area, but that area was formerly a paved circular driveway with a two-car garage that the previous property owner removed. And there is a 12-foot way that passes through the area. The wetlands include a FEMA Zone AE, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and all of the work is outside of the FEMA floodplain. Because there is FEMA floodplain on the property, technically there would be a coastal bank, but in this case, it does not function as one because the property is so far away from the ocean. And there's a number of houses between this property and the ocean, so it doesn't see any wave action. The primary resource areas are BVWs, and Brad Holmes of Environmental Consulting and Restoration delineated the wetlands. There are 3 wetland lines and they're really on either side of the work. The wetland lines are shown in blue. The 50-foot buffer is in red, and then the 100-foot jurisdictional area is in green. So the proposed work is in this area that was formerly the paved driveway and the garage, currently being P-stone. The house is centrally located. It has a 2-car garage. In the rear yard, there is a section of retaining wall that's about 4 feet tall in order to provide a level backyard for a small pervious patio. In the front yard, it will continue to be the same material for the driveway, so it'll be a pervious P-stone driveway, but the shape of that will be reconfigured in order to accommodate the shape of the house and the garage. The 12-foot way passing through will remain, but in addition, there will be some work done to put a secondary route behind a privet hedge so that there's a more private route if people prefer to go that way. Utilities will run down the existing paved driveway that will be used for access to the property. That is considered a minor activity under the Wetlands Protection Act, being that it's the installation of utilities within an existing paved driveway or way. The trees to be removed are shown in red, and there are a number of proposed trees to be planted as well. The work area is very small. It's only about 14,000 square feet. So once the house, the driveway takes up the majority of that. So there's only so much room to plant trees, but we are specifying 5 dogwoods that are 8 to 10 feet tall at time of planting, as well as 2 maples that will be 3 to 4 inch caliber. We did file a stormwater report for this project. The stormwater to be held back, to be mitigated, is very small in this project because the only impervious area proposed is the roof. But the roof runoff from the rear of the house will go to an underground infiltration system. And the runoff from the front will flow to the P-stone driveway, which also has a stone trench at the down gradient side, but it's a very flat area. So really the majority of water is going to infiltrate right in that driveway. So to conclude, this project does meet all of your regulations for a stormwater permit and for an order of conditions. We're reducing the rates and volumes of runoff for all storm events, and we're respecting the 50-foot no disturb buffer. Thank you very much.
Jeff Summers, do you have anything to report on this property, please?
Yeah, so this wetland that we're talking about is it's the same exact wetland that we were looking at the project that we heard last week, which was 73 Whitehead. So this is just south of 73 Whitehead. This wetland has a hydrologic connection to another wetland further south, which is the same wetland area that we looked at when we did the Howard Gleason project last year. If you've seen the photos that I took of the area, it's pretty much an open, where the house is going to go is essentially an open area, minus the north corner where those trees will have to come out. That's real all I have to say about this one.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Hassett, this is Marianne Weatherald. Could you point out where the trench is on the P-stone driveway? Perhaps, or can you also blow up this image so we can see it better?
So the existing driveway comes in right here, and then this is the P-stone area.
Yes.
So when the driveway gets reconfigured, there'll be a stone trench here, and then a stone trench here. That stone trench is 2 feet wide by 2 feet deep, I believe. And it's basically a reservoir. In addition to that stone trench, the entire driveway is stone.
And where's the infiltration system that you pointed
The
out?
infiltration system is right here.
Oh, okay.
So that's going to capture the runoff from the rear of the house, downspouts at the back.
And did you say that you were going to use a secondary way to Atlantic Ave?
No.
To the 12-inch.
beach.
Yeah, so there's an existing 12-foot wide way that connects the way up here to Whitehead Road. And it's not so easy to reconfigure that way legally. So it's going to remain, and anyone who has rights to it can continue to walk through there or go through it in any way they would like. But what the homeowners are going to do is plant a privet hedge right here and basically try to encourage people to take the alternative route where they would both have their own they have privacy. But that way, the way as it exists today will not be altered.
And you won't be using that at all as a traffic pattern or a driveway pattern?
That is the driveway to this house. So they come in from the bottom of the page. And then I don't believe they have rights up to continue heading north.
Okay,
There are
that's
people,
what I'm.
Yeah. So they aren't going to continue.
That's Atlantic, I think.
Yeah, they're Atlantic.
No, it's the driveway to the property at, what's the address, Jeff? 73?
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly,
that's Atlantic.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this,
That becomes a private drive at the edge of the driveway there, not too far off.
but this 12-foot wide way does connect to, I think it actually connects this way and then goes up to and then they have access all the way to the beach. And the reason the 12-foot wide is so they can, carry a canoe or whatever it is, and they can go all the way up to the beach.
Okay.
Yeah, the bottom line though is that way is not going to be altered or blocked.
They're adding this path so it feels like this is a little more private.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Jeff Hassett, what makes this an actual buildable lot? Because as you remember, the project that's that shares the existing driveway coming in was in front of us not too long ago. And it appeared that this was all one central lot, and now it seems like it's two separated lots here.
Yep, so these two lots have been in common ownership This lot we're looking at now was actually endorsed by the planning board as an A&R subdivision in 2017. It's a registered land, which means it also had to be approved by the land court, which they did go through that process.
I thought I remembered hearing at the hearing for the property here, I guess it's 62 Whitehead, when we talked about the reconfiguration of the driveway down in the bottom, in that little area that's labeled AR, that there was a comment made that there will never be any further building over there. There'll never be any outbuildings, etc. And here we are 2 weeks later with a house project in front of us. I find that a little ironic.
I'm not sure if you're thinking of a different project. I remember having that conversation on another project, but it's certainly always been the intent of the current property owners to develop this lot.
Jeff, can you zoom in to the 4 trees that are being removed? And I want to see what the grading is doing there, if I may. So right now you've got, let's see, there's a 23. What's the 24 contour doing? Oh, it's going there. 24, 22. I'm just wondering if the grading couldn't fit in a little more naturally and potentially save some of the trees that are there.
Or there is a piece of ledge here that needs to be removed. The grade's coming down about 3 feet right through there.
Mm-hmm.
So you are removing some ledge close to it.
But you've got the
probably keep this
it looks to me like that very large tree, 32-inch tree, is sitting on a 24 contour.
Yeah.
And you've got a 22 all the way up at the other end. And that's a pretty long distance that you should be able to get from 24 to 22 without taking that tree out. Now I can't speak to the health of that tree, but I do see, I see a 20-inch which it says fallen, so that's understandably being removed. The other certainly the 3, the pine, the 14 and the 32, it seems like it might be possible that those get saved unless they're in terrible shape. Do we have a picture of that, Jeff?
Yeah, I was just looking. It's not the best, but let me see if I can put it up here.
And while you're doing that, I might mention that privet is definitely not on the list of plants being accepted in the area.
This kind of isn't the best picture, but just to kind of orient everybody. So this is like the pea stone gravel driveway is now. The house is proposed to be over here where these cars are parked. And then that walkway that you're talking about, Chris, would be over here in this area. So I'm not sure which one of these trees off in the distance there is the actual ones we're talking about.
I bet I can tell you. This one right here is the big 34-inch.
Okay.
This is your 18-inch, and this is the pine right here. So those are 3 pretty good trees that are sitting in. I may be wrong. The one might be outside the 100-foot buffer. The other 2 are in the 100-foot buffer. But it seems to me that you should be able to snake a path through there and potentially hold on to those trees. Thoughts?
Chris, I get what you're saying. There, I mean, those 3 trees fall either just outside of the walking path, and we're only proposing to change the grade throughout there by about a foot or so. There's no reason we couldn't maintain the grade, and I think we probably could save those. The larger tree would fall right in, kind of as part of that hedgerow. So, yeah, I do think we could save the 3 of those.
It seems like the hedgerow could be, I mean, there's no rationale behind such a formal hedgerow as it is. You know, you're in the woods. You would think that the planting concept would be somewhat of a blend. I certainly understand creating a buffer, but certainly not with privet and perhaps not in such a formal method.
All right, I'll see if the landscape architect can come up with something more natural and native.
Okay.
Can we put the plan back up there again? I had a couple questions on the infiltration system and pavers and the wall and a few other things while we're at it. If you could scroll to the back side of the property, please. Out to the back to where the infiltration chambers are. The font is great there, but just over to just go a little further so we can see where the arrows point to for the narrative.
I'm gonna zoom out a little bit then. There we go.
All right, that's good. Thank you. So the direct downspouts from the rear portion of the house. You're saying the rear portion of the house. Is it capturing the entire house here? And this is it's been my pet peeve on a lot of projects here. What we see is a topo view of the actual house, but we don't know how many different pitches are going on here with the house. So when someone says they're capturing all the runoff, we're assuming they're capturing all the runoff. So what you're saying here is the rear portion of the house. What portion of the house is actually being captured as far as stormwater goes?
Sure. So I would picture a downspout here, maybe one in here, and another one over here, and they would all connect with a pipe kind of running right along the foundation, tying into the system.
So what about the front of the house?
So so the drywall only captures the rear portion of the house. It does call that out in the note.
Right.
The front of the house, the downspouts are going to daylight to the ground as if there was not an infiltration system. But then the runoff continues across this flat pea stone driveway where you'll get a lot of infiltration. And if the water runs across that driveway, it goes into the stone trench here, another stone trench over here. So rather than put it into a dry well, it's going into the stone reservoir.
Why don't you put it just under the pea stone driveway? If it's not asphalt, I don't see any reason why you couldn't put it in there rather than daylight it. Right?
Put another system in the front yard?
Yeah, I mean, daylighting is just asking for trouble.
Yeah. Okay, we can look into that.
And especially if you've got a slab here, a basement. And so I don't know why anyone would want to daylight a drain unless it's truly going downhill away from the property.
Jeff, I had a question about that, or just a comment. Are they not wanting a gutter system in the front because just for prettiness? Just because usually when the water comes down the front of the house, it just sheets down and then it freezes a lot. I've seen on pea stone, so I don't think that makes sense.
No, this wasn't the owner's preference. I just saw this as there's a 23 contour here, and then it goes to 22 over here. This whole driveway is so flat that I just don't see it eroding or being an issue, a safety issue, or flooding anyone downstream. So I didn't spec another system here, but doesn't mean.
And you still have gutters and leaders on the house, correct? On the front of the house.
Yeah, the house will have gutters.
Okay.
It's just where the water goes once it hits the ground.
And then, so feeding off of that, another question, this proposed paver patio that's in the back there, what is the square area of that and what's the makeup of that, Jeff? Is that going to be at ground level? What's the elevation there? How are they
Yeah.
going to get from the actual house, if it's finished foundation or the first floor of 24 and a half, how are they going to get out to this patio?
Yeah, so it's 2.5 feet down to the patio, so there will be a few steps. And the patio is 16 by 28, and it's going to be a bluestone patio set on a pervious base.
Could you, in a revised plan, and it sounds like there's going to be a revised plan, state out the dimensions of the of that paver patio, the 16 by 28, if that's truly what it's going to be, as well as the material, the bluestone that you mentioned?
Yes.
And then I see a proposed wall here that's also looks like it's running right along the 50-foot buffer zone, or 50 foot to the wetland. What's the makeup of that wall? How deep is it? Foundation poured, height, width, etc.
So that's going to be a boulder wall. Originally, the property owners were thinking it'd be a poured concrete, but it's now going to be boulders. And the benefit of that is you don't have to excavate for footings.
Well, I commend you for that. How high is the boulder wall going to be?
It's about 4 feet. There's one point where it's right here where it gets as tall as 5 feet, but most of the wall is 4 feet or less.
And what is that wall doing? Is it holding anything back? Is there soil behind it, or is it truly just a wall?
It's creating a small level area in the backyard for the patio.
Yeah,
So
Jeff has
Go
a
ahead.
photograph of that, but it's going from elevation at the corner of 16 up to the house, which is going to be at 22. So it's what they're doing is they're going to raise it to 21, and it's going to go from 21 to 22. So they're going to have about 5 foot of fill at that one corner, and then it's going to slowly taper off as it hits the house.
Yeah, is that also to build up for the infiltration chamber?
Yeah, coincidentally, because that area is filled, it makes a great spot for that chamber. Exactly.
Now, how are you actually, so you're not going to pour a footing. So did I hear you correctly say there's no excavation along that area?
Yeah, I did. I guess what I should have said is reduced excavation. You would want to scrape off the topsoil.
So you scrape it off, level it out, and then it's going to be boulder, but boulders are going to have to be held in with some form of concrete, grout, etc. You're not going to build a 6-foot wall and hold soil back just with boulders in place. Correct?
Actually, the intent was that these would be large boulders that would hold back the soil.
Like granite blocks?
Like 4 foot by 4 foot boulders stacked with a clean face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But dry placed.
So those would be dropped in with a excavator?
Right.
Now, would all of that work be done long before the dwelling is in?
It would have to be, yes.
Yes.
Because you'd never be able to get back there once the.
Right here is
So-
the end of the
Yeah.
existing wall. So there's only
Yeah.
5 feet to get around there, enough room to get a lawnmower.
Mhm.
And how much off of the wall is it to the 50? It looks like you've got the 50-foot buffer, you've got your silt sock, and then you've got the wall there. What's the difference? Distance?
2.5 feet.
Can you just specify this proposed wall a little bit in the plan as well, and give us a little narrative or a little diagram on the side as to the exact makeup of that wall?
Sure, absolutely.
Jeff, this is Marianne Witherald. Are these the type of boulders that we usually see? I think it's the Toll Brothers properties, those big boulders with, is that what we're envisioning here?
I'm not familiar with that. You know what they'll look like is the property next door wasn't before you recently, and they had some boulder walls along the driveway. If you recall those walls, the intent would be that they'd be similar.
Okay, then I support Jay's recommendation to outline that much better because I'd like to know what that is more.
Okay.
Kathleen, Patricia, Eric, any other comments?
No comment.
Nothing further, thanks, Chris.
So Jeff, I think you heard my comments as far as trying to save trees and maybe looking at a little more natural buffer there. And I think you've heard Jay's comments as far as that wall's concerned. And then there was the comment about whether the downspouts out front, whether the best solution actually is daylight or whether it's actually to have another chamber of some sort out front. Are you okay with continuing this hearing and addressing some of those conditions?
Yes, please. Could we continue it for 2 weeks?
Any chance you'd consider continuing it for 4 weeks? I know.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
You are okay? The owner's
Yes.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think it'll take a little bit of time to coordinate with the landscape architect, so.
okay, great. Then we're going to continue this hearing until April the 22nd.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next applicant is at 15 Diab Lane. This hearing is a continuation from March the 11th. This is a RDA 21-02. And
Yeah, there's nobody here to represent this project. I'm going to suggest that we just continue it for 4 weeks.
Jeff, can I just ask what exactly it is why are we, what do we have without, and I understand the applicant's not here, but what is what is in front of us here?
So I think you guys remember in 2017, they,
Yes, unfortunately, we do.
yeah, the 3 houses on Diab Lane for, I think there are 3, I don't remember the house numbers, 3, 9, and 15, I think, Diab Lane. So,
Yeah.
so as you know, the stormwater permits don't expire. They also filed an RDA for a little bit of work in the 100-foot buffer zone to the wetland on the other side of Howe Road. So the wetland buffer zone maybe goes like 10 feet onto the property where they want to build. So the determination for the RDA is only valid for 3 years, and that's expired. So now they're before, or who knows where they are now, but eventually they're coming before us to with the new RDA for the same. It's basically it's the same exact plan that was approved 3 years ago. The only work that they're proposing in the buffer zone is a 4-foot wide, 6 to 8 inch stone swale, which is part of the stormwater mitigation features for those 3 houses.
So there's what I'm hearing is there's no change to the existing plan?
Yes, it's the reason they have to come back is only because the determination from the RDA that they got over 3 years ago has expired, so they need a new one.
Oh, so it fully expired.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the reason why they need to come before us again to get another determination to do
Have
that
you
work in the
heard-
buffer zone.
Have you heard anything about any progress being done up there? Any proposed work? Any timeline on anything from the builders or the developers?
On Diab Lane.
Yeah.
So the applicant contacted me probably 4 months ago by now and said that he was interested in pursuing the projects. And then I told him that, there's a lot of preliminary items that he had to check off before he could begin any work. One was, putting in siltation barriers. They were supposed to mark trees, which were to stay, which were to go. They were supposed to put up basically a snow fence kind of barrier that would keep all workers out of certain areas as an extra precaution that they don't take down trees by accident. And then, so we talked about that a little bit. I sent him all the things that he needed to do in order to start the project. And then to contact me once these things were in place, and I would go out and inspect it before they did any work. In fact, I suggested that I wanted to meet with whoever the contractor was that was going to take the trees down before they do any work. Then I noticed, oh, well, you can't do any work on this property yet anyhow because the RDA expired. So it's been, he filed this RDA, I don't know how many months ago, and it's just been kind of floating around ever since because he hasn't been here. Then we had the issue 4 weeks ago when we had to cancel or was that last, I can't remember when that was now. But he was actually there for that one. And I thought he was gonna be here for this one. I don't know where they are now.
What's the what I mean, as opposed to, well, I certainly would never approve this project without the applicant here. And in fact, I'd even consider denying the project because the applicant hasn't even showed up. We've continued this, I don't know how many times now. And we continued at the beginning because the applicant hadn't paid back taxes and owed the town significant funds. This project has been in front of us for, I don't know, 6 or 7 meetings now. And at the 6th or 7th meeting, we're here tonight and the applicant doesn't even show up. So what are our grounds for a potential denial of this? Do we have any? I'm thinking to myself here as well, the grounds being the applicant just never showed up.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose all they would do is come back and refile again, but
Yeah, I don't know. I think the technical term would be the denial would be based on lack of information.
I'd like to suggest we don't deny this application. He could then walk in tomorrow and we would have to get him on the agenda for the 8th of April, which we don't want to do. We can continue it right now until the 22nd of April and maybe save ourselves a little bit.
All right, the 22nd it is.
Yeah, I think what I'll do in the meantime though is send him a communication basically stating that if they don't attend the meeting on the 22nd, that we'll just reject I'll figure out a way that we can reject the permit application, I guess. I mean, there's got to be some grounds, like you're saying, Jay. If they continue not to show up, we can't continue it forever.
And make sure you put them on the end of the night.
Yeah.
All right, so this hearing for RDA 21-02 at 15 Diab Lane is continued until April the 22nd. Jeff, do you have any updates?
Just 2 things, and actually, Jay, he reminded me to remind all of you. He sent out an email about the MACC annual conference. So they're offering all of the fundamental courses. There's 10 that can be had. I would suggest take a look at any of those if any of those interest you, or if you think you need or want to learn a little bit more about these subject areas. By all means, take them. If you call MACC, you can email them. Her name's Lindsay. I can't remember her last name, but she gets all the email, or you can call them direct, ask to speak with Lindsay, and tell her what you want to sign up for. Then they will send us a bill, and the town will pay for the tuition to take the course. There's also, I think they're offering 36 different workshops of various types that are available also. So any of those that anybody wants to sign up for, please do. The town will pay for it. But it starts, I think, April 8th, I think it was from April 8th to the 15th, if I remember right. So if you do want to do any of this, I would do it sooner than later, just so everything can get coordinated. The other thing I wanted to mention too was I spoke to Ted Lubitz the other day about the Seawall projects at the old Salt House. They are planning to start that. Well, he's hoping to have something finalized within the next 10 days, he said, from now, as to having a start time for this. Their construction technique or the construction process is going to be a little different than what they had originally proposed. They were originally proposing to put in a cofferdam around the whole entire side of the pier that had collapsed. So now that they have other people on board with this project and people that actually do this work, the way that I haven't actually got the details yet, but I asked him to email me the details of what they're now proposing. But the way they would do this is working from the land side, remove the riprap, and the way he described it was basically put in a steel box straight down on top of where the footings are, pump the water out of that, and then fill that with concrete. So instead of having one gigantic concrete poured wall, the concrete wall would be poured in different sections. It's apparently easier to do, less intrusive into the harbor. So that's what they're planning to do now. So that's.
Will we have an opportunity
Yes.
to do that before it gets permitted to build?
Yeah, so they're going to send me the details on how they're planning to do this. Once I get that, I can distribute it to everybody. If it's something that you think needs another hearing, if there's some disagreement to it, then I guess we can do that. If once everybody takes a look at it, and if they agree that it's, the best way to proceed, then I guess we can just approve that. I could probably just approve that administratively by saying the commission accepts the new proposal.
Jeff, I'd like to look at that, but I'd also recommend that the Division of Marine Fisheries take a look at that as well, because as you well know, there was a time frame, and I don't know what it was. I'm just going to throw a time frame out. Maybe it was like January 1st or February 1st till I think it was June 1st. Due to the protection of the flounder in the area and spawning, etc. So just wanted to make sure that, as you know, a cofferdam was required to be installed if they were going to be doing any work within that time frame. So Division of Marine Fisheries certainly should be on board with any alterations and input and approval on that, because there were specific conditions that we did put in the order of conditions. And if they're going to vary from that, specifically the time frame, then I think that certainly we should have all the details in place before we let them go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And the cofferdam would have limited a certain amount of siltation into the harbor. So without that, I mean, it's very important that we see the whole process.
I'm concerned about the concrete box too, as well. So I'd really like to see that.
Okay, once I get it, I'll send it to everybody, and I'll send it to Marine Fisheries, get their comments as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you have any documents need signature tonight?
No, I don't.
I don't have any updates today, but I would like to say that I received some feedback on the webpage from Marianne, some feedback from Eric. Do we want to have an executive session where we look at that collectively? Do people not? Are people interested, not interested? How do we as a group want to handle the webpage?
I think
I
it
think
needs to
you-
be changed and altered. It needs to be more user friendly. So I would have another session, just maybe a few of us to go over it, to add more information that explains where to find the information. I think it's very difficult right now.
Chris, this
Yeah, I
is
don't
Eric.
think you need an executive session in order to do that. I think that you could certainly open it up to the commission, and if didn't have everyone on board, but if you did have a quorum, you could certainly discuss that amongst yourself. It's not talking about any particular project, so it's not at the executive session, and it could be done at any time. It could be done, at a mutually, could be done 9, 10 o'clock in the morning if that was the best time for everybody. So whatever was agreeable to anyone who wanted to participate. And then and I guess the maybe question for you, Jeff, is whether or not it even needs to be posted. We're not talking about any particular project. It's not business. It's just
Yeah,
let's talk about updating the webpage.
yeah. I was going to suggest that. So Jen Orm is the one that administers the webpage. She is planning on doing a whole revision of the webpage in the months to come. So nothing's going to happen for several months anyhow. I don't know if, as a first step, if anybody wants to reach out to her and tell her what concerns you have about it. I agree there's some things that are not user friendly. Like I have people calling me all the time, how do I find the agenda and stuff like that? Because you kind of have to, well, some things you kind of have to dig down through a bunch of layers to actually find. And I think she's aware of that. And I think that's one of the things that she's going to try to fix with this new design that she's going to come up with.
Okay, well, what I'll do, Jeff, is I'll gather the comments that I've collected to date. If anyone wants to add something, feel free. I'll get those to her. And then maybe what we can do is when she's ready to work on our webpage, we can have a small group that can work with her.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
That sounds good. Any 48-hour issues by anyone?
I have a couple comments. Just one, as we consider some of these projects, and we had a project earlier on that was of a technical basis and had a lot of technical detail. Keep in mind that this commission can always require a third-party independent stormwater review to be performed in the event that some of the work might be outside of our expertise. So just keep that in the back of your minds. And the only other thing is the big issue here is the next agenda. 4.8 looks like quite a doozy. I know not the chair here, but here we are. Look like tonight was going to be a couple of slam dunks, and it's 8:30, 2 hours into it. I don't see that meeting ending before 1 o'clock in the morning. I'd like to be wrong, but I don't think it's fair to start any hearings past like 10 o'clock at night, 10:30 at night. It's not fair to the applicant, the abutters, etc. I don't know how to get around that. So, one thing that was talked about tonight, which I strongly support, and Jeff Summers, you brought it up about having the plans due by 4 p.m. a week before the hearing. So if we're going to hold to that, and I strongly support that the commission does, if any of the revised plans for any of these projects that have been continued and not submitted by 4 p.m. on Thursday, then just take them off the agenda and push them, because this last minute stuff, it really throws a wrench into a lot of things here. So that's just my comment. I don't know how to get around the next meeting, but if they're going to be lengthy, long discussions on some of those hearings, and there's no way we're going to get done before midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Jay, can't we control how many cases we put on the agenda? Can it be up to us?
Well, this, I'll go back to Jeff here a little bit. We have to have a hearing within 21 days of them submitting the application. So there's a time frame on when we've got to have a hearing. Now, if they're willing to voluntarily, move them, then great. And maybe Jeff or Angela could talk to the applicants and say, hey, the agenda is just loaded here. Is there any way we can move a couple of these projects? Because again, some of them probably won't start till 11 o'clock at night, and that's just not fair to anybody.
Jeff, how many we have scheduled? Hope he's talking to Angela.
I think we've got 10, if not 11.
Yeah, I think there's, so yeah, Angela just called me and she said the same thing, it's pretty much a Morse engineering show. So we were going to ask, we'll reach out to them and be like, look, is there anything here that can be continued, to the 22nd? So there's there's seven new ones. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, there's 12.
12. Holy mackerel.
So there were.
The danger of pushing them down the road is that and it's quite likely that some of these will get continued again. Can we have is there any way to, I guess it's not possible at this point to change dates on some of these, is there, and have a second set of hearings? Nor would anyone want to do that, right?
I think you'd have to do that around or after April 22nd, right?
I think if, so everything has either been advertised or, sorry.
I'll chime in. So
sorry.
Yeah. If we're going to continue it and some things need to be advertised, there's a couple different things here. I would recommend or suggest that Jeff and Angela reach out to all the applications, and Morse Engineering seems to have most of them, and see if they're willing to push it a little bit. And yeah, you're delaying the inevitable, but at least you don't have 12 applications, some of them very heavy hitters, in front of us 2 weeks from tonight. But if we do have to go have a heavy night, that we limit the discussion to the discussion on the application and not get sidetracked a little bit here. If it's a stormwater application, let's just talk about the stormwater. If it's a buffer zone, talk about the buffer zone, etc., and not get sidetracked into other lengthy discussions. And Mr. Chair, I would recommend don't feel bad if you say we're going to limit the discussion to a half an hour due to the length of the agenda. And if at the end of the half hour we're not in a position to approve it, we continue it. I think just we have put some time limits if on a meeting that has 12 applications in front of us. That's all.
Well, the concern with a time limit is that if you don't approve it or you don't continue it, if you deny it, it's going to be considered that they're going to, anyone's going to object to it. So you're almost forced at that point to continue.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, let's just see if we can make some phone calls to some of these applicants and ask if they can postpone a few of them willingly.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
sorry, go ahead.
Otherwise, we may have to have a second one. But I think this all goes back to originally the Zoom that didn't work. But we are getting backed up, and I've heard there's some big projects coming forward. So we just don't want to be slammed for the next 2 to 3 months.
I know.
Yeah, I know we had talked about it with the Cohasset, Harbor Inn project, adding an additional night, but we may want to think about doing 3 weeks in a row, almost to just get through this, what was missed from that one night that the Zoom didn't work, to try to get caught up again, anticipating that there are going to be, continued more and more projects coming in. There's always a couple that get continued, and I do think it might we're going to continue with the backlog here. And I'd rather go 3 weeks in a row and not be on until midnight or 1 o'clock, every other week for a couple months here.
I would like the town to provide dinner in those cases. So if they do that, I'd like something in return.
So I was gonna, and Angela said too, so, everything has either been advertised for the April 8th or continued to April 8th. So if anything, if any of the applicants agree to have it on another date, I mean, if we were to continue, say we call Morris and they're like, yeah, sure, we can do 3 or we can continue 4 things. Instead of loading up everything on the 22nd, when April 8th comes around, I think what we could do is, say, read whatever into the record, or if it was continued, just say, what, this meeting is continued again to another date other than the 22nd. So, I mean, I don't know what Morris has going on or what you guys have going on the 15th, but that would be, the Thursday between the 8th and the 22nd. I mean, that would be a possibility. I don't know if they're available or not, though. Or if, we'd have a quorum that would be available.
Who's going to be away
Yeah.
on the 22nd? Vacation week.
No, I think the week before is the vacation week, the 15th.
No, it's not.
I'm on vacation week right now.
Is the 22nd April vacation?
It is.
I won't even be here.
That's what I was just asking.
I thought it was the week before. I thought we were avoiding school vacations.
We have been, or public
Yeah.
school.
So I won't, just a heads up, I won't be here the 22nd.
Okay.
Does school resume the 26th through the 29th?
Yes.
And how many do we need for quorum?
4.
4.
Okay.
Well, you can always push it to the 15th then, I guess, right? The 15th is an option. You could go the 8th and the 15th.
But the 15th would have to be determined by when, Jeff?
By who?
The 15th. If we had a hearing on the 15th, when would that have to be advertised by?
What we would do is open everything that was scheduled for the 8th, continue it to the 15th. So we wouldn't have to advertise anything. Everything would be continued. There's
Yeah.
no new projects coming in that we would schedule for the 15th. It would just be to continue to take things off the plate on the 8th.
Yeah, okay.
So then we do the 8th, the 15th, possibly the 22nd.
And definitely.
And then the
22nd,
6th?
'cause we have things
22nd
continued
is
to the
on the
22nd.
agenda- as an agenda already.
So if there's enough commissioners that would be available on the 15th as an option, we can reach out to Morris and see if they can do that.
But then that would require that 2 weeks later, we have to have the next set of hearings, unless we get them to agree to a longer continuance.
I'm sorry, Chris, I couldn't make that out.
If we have a hearing on the 15th and it gets continued, then unless they're willing to continue it for more than 2 weeks, then we're bound to be there the week of the 29th.
Yeah, I see what you're saying too. Yeah. Yeah, because we would, if we were going to be expecting revisions, the night of the hearing would be the night we would need the revisions for a meeting the week later.
Yeah. Angela has a good comment here, and just basically just hold off until Jeff and Angela reach out to the applicants and really see what can be moved to what particular date. So I would agree with that.
Okay. Yeah.
Jeff, do
Thank you,
we
Angela.
have a requirement for notice of a request for continuance?
Yes.
And how
Just-
long in advance of a meeting do they have to do that?
I don't think there's any time requirement.
Oh, okay.
I've got them that morning,
Yeah,
just as long as it's in writing.
okay. Because there's still a good chance that on 4/8, a couple will drop out.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
So. Okay. Well, keep us posted.
Okay, we will. Yeah, we'll try to figure it out and see if we can alleviate that.
Okay.
Yeah, like, and you know, like you guys were saying, I don't think Morris wants to be up till 1 a.m. either.
You're muted, Tom.
I said those are billable hours.
Double overtime.
Hmm.
Okay. Where'd Eric go?
Yeah, I noticed he was gone about maybe 15 minutes ago.
Past his bedtime. Wait till April 8th.
Oh my goodness gracious. We're gonna get through half of them and then we won't have a quorum. He'll leave us.
Well, you know, that's another thing that we all have to consider here as we go through this. We only have 6 members, and so we always need 4 as a quorum. So if anybody's not going to be here, you know, let Angela, Jeff, and the chair know in advance.
Heather and Tom, your situations haven't changed any that you are ready to be full commissioners, haven't they?
Unfortunately, no. Work is still pretty terrible and time consuming.
Well, we thank you for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
Tom,
No,
you just
not
home
yet.
up with the pandemic, right?
I'm totally swamped. I'm just really running too many hours a day and too many days of the week so far. I thought I was retired. It's just not happening.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye. Captain?
Aye.
There you go. All right. We're adjourned. Thank you,
Good night.
everyone.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you. Say it again.